My next guest says that she has firsthand experience dealing with ICE when she was pepper sprayed, arrested, shackled, and taken to an ICE detention center in Minneapolis. Patty O'Keefe says she and a friend were following ICE agents in her car as they made arrests during the federal crackdown in her community last week. She says that ICE agents surrounded her car, sprayed irritant into her windshield vent, and then the agents smashed her windows, pulling her and her friend, Brandon Siguenza, from the car, taking them into custody for obstruction. A neighbor hearing the commotion took this video.
Oh my God. You think we're playing? You are under arrest for massive government for impeding. Put your hand behind your back. Shut up. Shut the
O'Keefe and Siguenza, both U.S. citizens, say they were ultimately released without charges after being held for almost 9 hours at the Henry Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis, where detainees are being processed. Joining me now, Minneapolis resident Patty O'Keefe. So, Patty, describe what happened before these moments when they came to the car. How were you monitoring ICE, and how did things get so heated?
Yeah, we had gotten an alert from a group chat that there were 2 ICE agents cornering an observer in my neighborhood and had sprayed pepper spray onto their car. This was just about 3 minutes away from my house, so we headed in that direction because everything we have heard is that the more people who are on the scene and, watching, filming ICE agents, the less likely it is that the situation, that ICE will escalate to violence. So when we got on the scene, the ICE agents were getting back into their car. They turned down a side street. We followed them for about, 40 seconds, and then they stopped the car, came out, and one of the agents sprayed pepper spray onto my front windshield vent. And then they came back and broke the windows of our car, dragged us out, arrested us, put us in 2 separate unmarked vehicles, and took us to the detention center.
All right, I'll get to what happened in the detention center in just a minute, but what was the purpose of following them? What was your objective?
Well, many people in Minneapolis right now are acting as constitutional observers to observe what ICE is doing, to, make sure that if they are and when they do violate people's constitutional rights, that is accounted for, that it's recorded. And we also were, we were blowing our whistles, we were honking the horn of our car because that has been some of the only successful ways that we've been able to warn people in the neighborhood that ICE is in the vicinity. So that's what we were doing, trying to protect and notify our neighbors that ICE was around and continue to watch what they were going to do.
Got it. And a DHS spokesperson says that agents gave you multiple warnings as well to stop impeding law enforcement. Is that true?
Yes, they did tell us to stop impeding, but, there was no one ahead of them. They could have just kept moving forward. All we were doing was blowing on our whistles, honking our horn, exercising our First Amendment rights. We weren't violating any, traffic rules. And so, yeah, we were just exercising our rights, and then were detained for that.
All right. Tell us what happened. You say that in the car ride to the ICE facility, an agent said some pretty disturbing things to you.
Yeah, the same agent that sprayed pepper spray into the vent of my car. When I got into the car, the 3 ICE agents immediately started mocking and taunting me. One took a picture of me and showed the other ones laughing. And then, yes, that one agent said, you guys got to stop obstructing us. That's why that lesbian is dead, referring to Renee Good.
Wow. So then when you got to the detention facility, what happened there?
When we got to the detention facility, I immediately saw 6 young Hispanic men and 1 East African woman lined up against a wall, waiting to get put into a holding cell. I was then taken into the building and put into ankle shackles and then taken to a hallway with designated cells for US citizens and held there for over 8 hours. And in that time, I mean, there was just like intermittent sounds of, screaming, crying, pleading, like, people who are in absolute agony. And that was juxtaposed with a lot of small talk, banter, just lighthearted conversation from the federal agents that were outside our cells. So it was very clear to me that a lot of the people that are working there are very desensitized to the visceral pain that people there are feeling.
Now, you did say, and just one more question, Patty, during your time in detention, you had a chance to have a conversation with an ICE officer and actually came to an understanding. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, it was actually a Border Patrol agent, and he just wanted to know more about like why we were doing this. And so I, explained that it's because we deeply care
Josh,
about
if
our
you want.
community. I want to show up for and protect my neighbors because there also are like designated cells for US citizens in this building. US citizens are getting picked up and arrested and detained, and their constitutional rights are being violated all over the place. And at the end of the conversation, he said, I think I just kind of thought all of you guys were crazy. And yeah, and so, we're not crazy, right? We are really concerned about what we're seeing, how we're seeing people treated in our community. And I think when you have that kind of, this desensitization to dehumanization and pain, coupled with thinking that the people who are showing up for their neighbors are crazy, I think that that's a really dangerous combination, and kind of explains a little bit more about why we see ICE agents showing up in the way that they are in Minneapolis.
Patty O'Keefe, appreciate you joining us and telling us about your story. And as we mentioned, we did reach out to DHS about what Patty experienced, and they did release this statement in part saying the 2 agitators making these false claims were stalking and obstructing ICE law enforcement. It's a felony. ICE law enforcement gave the driver and passenger multiple warnings to stop impeding law enforcement, but they chose to continue and were arrested on January 11th. The passenger refused to roll down the window and exit the vehicle. ICE law enforcement followed their training and used the minimum amount of force necessary to make the arrest.